this is your opening shot. You have the title card and then this opening shot. And what we realize is we pull out and it's a mirror in a girl's locker room. I think that's really clever. It's a fun way to introduce your main character and obviously this sort of crush. I think you could actually even push the staging of this a little bit more for two reasons. One, anytime you have a 2:3:5 aspect ratio, you have so much more information on screen that you kind of have to account for. And there's a lot of stuff here that's not as clear as it could be in terms of what I'm looking at. Is it a window? Is it through a door? But also, your three boys here, they're kind of identical in shape and proportion. So none of them stands out as a focal point. There's no reason you couldn't start just super tight like that. And then you could change the proportions of these guys. Like maybe he's a little bit taller, and he's looking at his phone up here, kind of covering his face a little bit. So we kind of block him out of sort of focal interest of the shot. And maybe even one of the guys is like shorter, looking at his phone here. So that way, now when you look at this compared to this, you kind of know who you're supposed to be looking at. See this, he's pointing up here to this guy. This phone sort of blocking the face. Our eyes are drawn to faces. So by moving this guy smaller, putting some shade underneath the hood, blocking out the eyes, and then also creating this sort of rhythmic line. Bam, he's right there. And then you pull out, boom, hair flip out to your girl. Now we've just sort of focused everybody on the main point. When we start with her looking at her crush in the mirror, and then you pull out here. So here's the thing. She shuts her locker, but then she starts walking, even if we ignore the sort of time portal person, she starts walking in the direction geographically towards the guy. This is an opportunity where you can use staging to help tell your story. She probably should walk the other way. That also on screen is also saying she doesn't even feel comfortable walking by the guy. She doesn't even feel comfortable being in proximity to him. So right now we have the three boys here. We've got the lockers here, right? Boom, 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 boom. And she's here. Right? If we're looking top down. So right now she starts walking this way, but she's not confident. So it actually would make more sense that she goes this way geographically. And then you're creating a greater distance between her and the goal. Here, when she turns to walk that way, it could be an opportunity where you actually like give her a moment to like hype herself up. Like you think she's going to do it. She's like, okay, here we go. Takes a deep breath, she's like, I'm gonna do it. And then you could do a comedic thing where you cut wide, flat against those lockers there. She's holding on all her books, right? She like lifts up one leg like she's gonna walk that way, okay, she's determined. So she's about to take a walk, and then she totally just runs away. It's just like making a more entertaining, more active version of a beat of her just walking away. All right, so she's walking away. The hand comes out of the shadows, but then from here to here, that leap is so big that the action is happening, grabbing. I never see the hand grab the backpack and the camera's moving, so it's too many things going on at the same time, right? Here, you just need one more pose where the hand grabs it, and she would keep walking, right? And here's where you could get some fun animation because you'd have like the, the backpack like stretching, as she's like continues her movement forward. Now I would even do one more drawing where she gets pulled first. So the hand would recede. She's kind of getting flung off her feet, Maybe she could even like throw her books or something. Think physical, think visual, entertainment, fun, and then of course, her feet would be sort of like closer to camera here, as if she got like yanked off her feet. Now we start going in and do the push in. I think you could push this drawing. The tongue there, her hands here, and then you could even have these feet in the like big old feet, in the foreground here, right? Here's the difference. So she's walking, the hand comes out, but then we never saw it grab it, and we're kind of moving before the action in the darkness versus she walks by, the hand grabs her backpack, yoinks her off her feet, and then we fly with her into the darkness. You have sort of like a drift in here, right? Getting closer to the person. I almost want the reveal to be here because it looks like you're teeing me up for some reveal, right?
Right.
Like, who is this person? Bum, 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 closer, closer, closer. But then we just cut away, Everything we do on screen is going to invoke and elicit some sort of response from the audience. Moving the camera, especially towards a masked figure like this, really makes me excited about, oh, who is this? Who is it? What is this? And then we kind of just go away. There's nothing wrong with it. But maybe there's a more effective time to use it, or you move up the reveal in your story to just do it there, touches the helmet, reveals her face. Then when you go back, it's like, are you me? And that's when the mouth gets covered, right? Like, shh, no one can know I'm traveling back in time. Just another kind of camera thing here. So she starts to freak out and you push in and then it kind of pulls back out when that hand comes in. It's what we call yo-yo-y, which is whenever you kind of have the camera going in, but then sort of immediately out or vice versa. It creates sort of almost like a nauseating feeling. It's a little off-putting. There's no reason you couldn't just have the hand come in when you're tight. Come in here, you know?
Right, yes.
And then the eyes. What happened? Now we're using the push in because she's about to scream. She's like, oh my God, you're. And then you're closer to the eyes for her to look up. And that's going to help motivate your next cut. So you have this shot where the hand comes in and covers her mouth. And then we cut around and we're looking sort of up at the woman. We're not exactly on axis from the eyes here that you used to motivate the cut. And let me show you what I mean. So if we draw an overhead schematic, you've got the girl, we'll put a little bow on her head here, sitting down, and you've got future her here. She reaches out her hand and she covers her mouth. So the first camera you have works really well because you have the camera sort of inside the action here, almost along her arm, looking at this girl. So that's this shot, right? The camera's almost like on the chest of the future her. But on the next cut, we're kind of a little bit 3/4 looking up from the side. So it almost looks like your next camera's here. Now that's not wrong because that still maintains your left and right. You know, you're still on this side of the 180. My instincts are always use the axes you created. So essentially, if we slide this camera that you had over here, right, looking this way, the closer you slide it to this line that you've created on that first shot, the more organic and the more natural and the more connected to the characters the cut is going to feel. It's going to feel a little bit more like this. We want to maintain our left and right. So she's favored to the right here. It's okay if some of the pose overlaps, but as long as you maintain the sort of focal point, which is normally faces, on the right side versus the left, you're still going to maintain that 180 you created. So from there to there, we're a little off to the side, but from here to here, it feels like we're inside that action that just occurred, and it feels like we are more the girl's eyes than before. Here's another thing. So when you're doing 2:3:5 aspect ratio also, there's just always so much more stuff to look at. So another trick you could do is if we like this shot that we created where we restaged it, if you use a little bit of shading, stuff in the foreground is going to get darker and the lines are going to get thicker. And we put a blur on it because it would kind of be out of the focal range, right? Because it's getting so close to the camera. That's going to even push our eye more up to her, more up to the face, which is what we want. And you could even add, you know, like a rim light here, a little bit of a drop shadow under those glasses, and that'll really pull our eye there. So from here to here, so this cut to there now, like all these little lines help me go right there when we cut, if that makes sense. And the blurriness of stuff in the foreground, anytime things are out of focus, it's going to push us to whatever's in focus. So, and look, you did a good job here because you've got this shelf and you've got this line here. You could even do a little bit of a blur on the background as well. See how that immediately focuses our eye on the character?
Yes.
This future version of herself hits the button, the helmet disappears, and we discover, oh my God, I'm you from the future. But then you cut to a profile shot of the girl. This is like the biggest information in your whole story, the biggest, most important part of your story, and we're not even going to get the full effect of the girl's acting because you're shooting it from a 90. A director I worked with once said, when you shoot from profile, you only get 50% acting. I think you would really want to be on the girl's face here. And we already have this axis we created. So now you just go back. Again, I'm favoring her left, right? Like you have. Favor her left. And then you could do a slow push-in on her as well. So this, in contrast to that other one we talked about before, where you were pushing into the helmet, but you didn't have a reveal. Now it's like the point of this camera move is to have us really understand that this girl is absorbing the fact that she's looking at her future self, which is like a big deal, right? See, now that camera move is emphasizing the beat, the point. And now, of course, the girl's probably going to be excited. So what you could do is now she could jump out of her chair, you know, and she jumps forward, like maybe she's excited, right? jumps forward, and this is a trick I use a lot, jumps forward, and because we're so tight already, she's basically going to cover up the screen, right? Which will motivate a cut because you're basically blocking off all relevant or important information. So push in, push in, push in. She leaps out of her chair. Now we could go to one of those shots like we talked about where the camera is a little bit farther away because we want to see what's happening now. See her here, older her here, and the girl's like leaps up, and is probably like dancing around her. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Like touching her, like really, I can't believe it. Oh my God, your hair is the same as my hair, and now we're wide because that's sort of the comedy of it. Now we cut to an objective shot, meaning we're not in anybody's POV per se, but because we've motivated that action by her leaping out of the chair, when we cut here, it doesn't feel unmotivated and it doesn't feel as objective because the character is prompting the cut. She leaps forward with excitement. So it's even though it's an objective shot, it's like motivated by the subjective. It's motivated by the subject, the character. From here to here, it's a little jumpy because she's kind of the same spot and relatively the same size. But even more than that, especially like we're talking about in 2, 3, 5, I would have the other girl in the foreground because again, that's going to focus us over there. So if you look at the proximity of them, if you're saying your next camera is kind of over here looking that way towards her, you would imagine that just based on what you have is something like this. The girl's here, right? In the foreground. And what that'll allow us to do is, again, keep our eye here. And then put a blur on it like we did with that other stuff. And then I'm going to take that girl and I'm going to make her a little bit bigger so that it's not as jumpy on that cut. So the difference from here to here is a little bit jumpy, right? And the orientation of your characters isn't exactly right based on geography versus here, boom. And in fact, you'd probably want to hook up the action here over cuts. The way she's looking and posed in this shot on your cut is different. She should still be looking outward. That makes it feel even jumpier. Even just that, from going here to here, that pose and expression hooks up. But then you get this extra little look of her, which adds to the thought process of the character. Then we cut here, and she's going to reveal the picture of the crush. This camera move, I think it's a little excessive. Anytime you introduce information on screen, just cut into it. It's actually one of the most organic cuts you can make alongside characters looking. Characters looking at something motivates a cut, but also introducing new information on screen. We as an audience want to go and see what that is. You're actually stepping on the good sort of visual storytelling you did here to set up that picture by taking a longer time to push in and moving the camera. Now it's more about the camera, and then we're finally there versus just here, and then you just literally punch in, boom, to the boy. It's an immediate information get for the audience. Oh, the boy that she has a crush on. Yeah. So I think you just kind of over-massaged, overworked that beat where it could really just be simpler. Pulls it out, bam, right into it. Sparkling is funny. I like that little effect you have. Even this to this is a little too much because you want people to focus on this. So this is where I would do really subtle, if at all, more of like a drift rather than a push. You don't want this changing so dramatically over the different panels. You might scale it like honestly like 3 or 4%, but not much, right? Just so it feels subtle. So you've got this holographic thing here, which I love. I think it's a super fun convention. It's great visual storytelling. It helps get some of the exposition across in a sort of fun, unique way. Then you have this cut behind the hologram looking at the girl. I love this. But then you have the girl leave from behind it, where I actually think what might be better is it just dissolves and sort of reveals her again. Then we're just like right at the girl. Here's another jump cut, yeah? I don't really know where I am anymore. The boy sort of flops, but he's in the same spot. Another thing you could try, she's got glasses there. I wonder if you could go to a shot, because you're kind of using holograph and images, and we have the mirror at the beginning. I wonder if we couldn't go to a shot where you have her glasses sort of hanging, underneath her nose, and maybe you see the hologram reflected in her glasses, right? Maybe you have like the boy here reflected in her glasses, and then you could get 2 of them also, which is like funny. Now it's like she turns away. She's like, that's never going to work. And then he wouldn't be in the glasses anymore. And there's actually something very sort of like visually poetic about that. That's never going to work. How's that ever going to work? Because
Oh,
then
I love that.
he wouldn't be on screen anymore, right? So it's again, you're using sort of your convention, your, you know, the unique aspects of your story, the holograms, the reflections, the mirrors. You're kind of using it all now to tell your story.